Okay, so we're live. Hi everyone. Welcome to finding out more about Dentons. Before we kind of go into sharing more about Dentons, we thought it'd be useful to do a bit of an intro. So I'm Sarah Hart. I manage graduate recruitment and development here at Dentons. I've basically really been enjoying meeting you all on the booth the last couple of days, and don't forget to join our booth again at 2 o'clock today to hear more from other representatives. I know we've only got a short amount of time today, so any other questions, do let us know. So bits that I'm going to tell you about today is around with regards to the sort of scale and global coverage of Dentons. You should know around Dentons, we are the world's largest law firm. So we've got 11,000 lawyers in 189 locations in 77 countries. So we really feel that puts us in a different league to the rest of global elite law firms in terms of size. And there's a lot I think we could say around our locations, but we're really confident around our future and what we're doing around kind of expansion and merging and that sort of side. And our growth around the last sort of 5 years has been really shows what we can do from a skills point of view to support our clients, and we feel that no other firm can match this. So when a client comes to us and they need something, we're likely to have that expertise. So it's a really fantastic place, and obviously scale and scope from a career point of view is phenomenal as well. And also in a post-COVID world with less international work, international travel, there's a lot importance around lawyers in local areas and building those kind of personal connections and relationships. So we're able to kind of give that that local kind of expertise advice where obviously there's less sort of travel kind of going on at the moment. We're an incredibly diverse firm. There's a lot we can say around that. 80 plus languages spoken, and so hopefully that give you a bit of a flavour around our scale. With regards to what we feel differentiates us is that we really know where we're headed. We have a clear vision and an ambitious goal. And you would have heard it a lot if you attended the booth around wanting to build the law firm of the future now. And I guess it's around, how we're planning to do this. So let's start with, our clients. So that's obviously the kind of the best way to build a sustainable business overall. Is entirely focused on delivering what the clients want today, and obviously how you're going to support them best tomorrow. And a culture as well that supports that success. So obviously we've got a very kind of purpose-driven approach to our sort of strategy overall. We're able to give that global, thoughtful advice, be a trusted advisor, really focusing on innovation, and also kind of overall quality, breadth and style of service as well. So that's just a bit about our kind of brand and where we're headed. Before I sort of, kick off any further, better to introduce the rest of the people on your screen at this point. So I got ahead of myself with getting too excited about sharing around Dentons and the dream. But I'll hand over to Joe Cohen, who's just going to do a little intro around himself, and then obviously you've got the trainees to introduce themselves. So Joe, do you just want to say a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Joe Cohen, and I lead the innovation team at Dentons UK and Middle East. So do you want me to talk about now what that is, or are you going to do the intro to the trainees first?
Maybe we just do an intro to the trainees first, and then we'll circle back. Yeah. Fab. So Ollie, do you want to go next?
Sure. I assume you can all hear me. Hi everyone. My name is Ollie Gordon. I'm a second year trainee at Dentons. I'm currently in my third seat. So I started at the firm in September 2019. My first seat was in real estate. I then moved over to our banking team and sat within our aviation finance subgroup. And we've just rotated again as of a couple of weeks ago, and I'm currently sitting in our general banking team, where we specialise in all things banking, really, leverage finance, real estate finance, restructuring and solvency, general corporate lending, etc. So that's a bit of an introduction into me.
Okay, and Sarah, do you want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Slattery. I'm a first seat trainee in the London office. So I just joined the firm about a month ago, and I'm also sitting in the general banking department, which is the same as Ollie.
Thank you, Sarah. And Kyle, do you want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Spencer. I'm also a first seat trainee. I just started the firm a few weeks ago with Sarah, also based in the London office. And for my first seat, I'm sitting in project, trade and asset finance, specifically the project finance and commodity trade finance subgroup.
Thank you, Kyle. Obviously, as mentioned, with regards to kind of our vision and strategy, one thing that you'll obviously hear about us a lot is that we're polycentric, and that means that we don't have, a dominant national culture. And we're really proud of, obviously, that we're able to offer that kind of expertise and obviously the talent that people obviously all bring to the table there. And as obviously, with regards to the diversity of the people that we have, we're really focused and committed on diversity inclusion and look to sort of challenge the status quo when it comes to sort of supporting our community and our clients best. We also have a really sort of strong kind of legacy with regards to innovation overall, and so I'll hand over to Joe, who would give a bit of an insight into innovation at Dentons and what that looks like overall.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So innovation at Dentons means sort of many things. For our team in particular, it's we've got innovation culture, which is around idea identification and implementation of those ideas. So really making sure that everyone across the firm has a voice, and anything which they do, which they think, I could really make my job easier or faster or more efficient. Could we address this? We always try and have a look and see if there's anything we can help with. Innovation training, which I'll come to later, and innovation labs, and especially innovation governance in terms of having a proper portfolio of projects is very important to us as well. And some of those projects are legal technology platforms, which is the second pillar. So this is all around taking legal tech products and trying to use them on matters. So getting lawyers involved with some of the emerging technologies that are coming out, and really trying to improve our client service or improve the speed of delivery or the scope of delivery. And there's a lot that we're doing with technology at the moment, and I'll come to some of the platforms in our portfolio in a second. We do a lot with legal project management and process improvement as well. That's certainly part of under the innovation umbrella. And then the final pillar is innovation in business models and pricing. So allowing clients price certainty on matters, so that they, from the outset, they know what the scope is going to be, and there aren't as many surprises along the way. So there's quite a lot there, you might imagine, and to do that, to get lawyers involved in these projects, we have this initiative called the I program, which is basically a set of up to 50 hours per year that lawyers can charge their innovation time to, so that it doesn't impact on their utilization. So what that essentially means is you might think, oh, that's just a technicality, but actually those 50 hours can really add up over the course of the year, and it really shows that the senior buy-in we have right from the top of, okay, we do realize that lawyers do need to input to these innovation projects, and to really make sure that they can, we're allowing that these innovation hours also count as chargeable. So just spoke before about our portfolio. So we do lots of legal technology. We've got, looking at my portfolio here, we've got 13 products that we've implemented across the firm. We're currently piloting another 5, and our pipeline has also got another few in there. So sorts of things that we're piloting and have implemented certainly include AI platforms. All of the tools that you might have heard of, we either use in this region or in other regions. So Luminance, Kira, Leviton, you might have come across all those before. We have quite high uptake of those platforms across multiple different practice groups. So it's really interesting getting the lawyers using those tools, and certainly getting clients involved in those projects as well. Other platforms you might have heard of, DocuSign, we have really high usage of DocuSign, and Ollie might say a couple of things on that in a bit. That's also exploded in usage since lockdown, and really is now sort of the default in many practice groups when it comes to document signing. Some other platforms that we have implemented. The implementation process, by the way, is quite lengthy. We need to pilot all of these new platforms because at the end of the day, all of them are web-based software that is dealing with client confidential information. So it's really important to us to do full IT security testing, get risk and procurement involved to make sure that these products are going to be responsible with the client data which they get access to. And most importantly, that the platforms actually work and that their functionality works as expected. That in the case of AI, that the clauses that the machine recognizes are accurate, and that they have a high level of maturity, and that they can be trained further by us at a good rate as well. So all of the tools that have been implemented have been fully tested. I'm happy to say. We're testing some other AI platforms. We're looking at platforms to help us do structured diagrams more efficiently. We have got platforms to allow us to share budgets and real-time fee information with clients more efficiently. There's really quite a lot of different platforms that we are using to enhance our legal service delivery. If there's any other ones in particular or any other questions you might have, then there's a Q&A at the end, so do feel free. We're also looking at things like robotic process automation and how can we tailor products to specific matters to try and eke out even more efficiency gains. The last thing I'll talk about, because I think I'm running out of time, is this innovation training program we have for trainees. And so Kyle and Sarah are two first year trainees, as they already said, and they're both taking part in this scheme, which is a two-tiered approach. The first is we collaborated with BPP to design 5 legal technology and innovation e-learnings. So introduction to legal tech, introduction to legal design thinking, introduction to process mapping, those sorts of topics. And those are all completed before they join. And now they're moving on to the second tier, which is 6 practical exercises. So taking the knowledge that they have learned in those e-learnings, putting it into practice. So, using our document automation software to automate the document, which basically means turning a document into a questionnaire. So you answer the questions in the questionnaire and it populates the first draft of the document. So using that software on a document in their practice area, using our robotic process automation software to automate something in their group, training the machine learning or AI modules, using the design thinking knowledge to redesign one of our legal precedents, and really actually putting some of this stuff into practice and creating some usable collateral. We really are excited about this scheme, and it's something that if you are lucky enough to join Dentons as a trainee, then you'll also be involved in these sorts of interesting initiatives. One last thing is you may have heard of Nextlaw, which is our sort of global innovation wing, I suppose. We have Nextlaw Labs and Ventures, which invest in legal technology startups. That's all sort of public information. We also have this Nextlaw in-house solutions, which is like where we act as consultants for our clients, and we go in and help them build up their legal operations, legal technology functions in-house. So it's sort of looking at it from the other lens. So yeah, there's lots going on with innovation at Dentons. We really believe in it and buy into it. And let me know if you've got any questions at the end. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Joe. So obviously really exciting to hear about innovation. Dentons has won more awards than anyone globally else with regards to what they do on innovation. So definitely get your questions over to us in the Q&A section. With regards to other aspects around Dentons, before I talk more around the opportunities, we've actually had a question on the chat around the diversity networks that we offer, and that was a nice segue because exactly what we're going to cover now. So obviously it's a real global priority for us at Dentons. and the sort of responsibility we all share is a key part of our strategy to make sure that we are, attracting and retaining and progressing, exceptional talent within the firm. We are kind of making a culture of inclusion and also, engaging with our clients on what we're doing around inclusion and diversity. We've got a variety of different networks to list those for that person who's asked that question. We've got Inspire, which is our gender equality network group. We've got Glow, which is our UK LGBT plus network. We've got Black Professionals Network, BPN. We've got Fusion, which is an Asian professionals network. We've got the Parents and Carers Network, and recently we've launched our My Healthy Balance, which is obviously focused on mental health. So obviously there's a huge amount going on in the diversity inclusion space, and also in CSR as well. We've got some really fantastic hours that are dedicated to pro bono, and the amount of time that our fee earners sort of invest there. So that's just a bit of an overview, just to kind of go through the opportunities that we have with regards to where we're hiring training contracts into. So we're looking to hire training contracts into London, Milton Keynes, and Central Belt. Obviously London, Fleet Place, which is actually where myself and Kyle are situated today, and Milton Keynes, which is one of the largest growing areas of the UK. So some fantastic industries you can be working with there. Scotland as well, amazing amount of different clients. And the training contract connects both across Edinburgh and Glasgow, so lots of exposure there. As was touched upon around the new development journey for our trainees, we've pioneered that for our trainees this September, and that, as well as innovation, includes resilience, which is obviously a real key skill for people to build internally and sort of hone that as a skill, because the private practice is constantly changing. Not just this year. It's very sort of focused on kind of being agile, and it can at times be a high pressure environment. So we've got to give people the tools that they need to build that resilience, so that we've got a whole kind of module that is around resilience, with experts giving our trainees their insights, and also there'll be personalized reports so that our trainees are able to kind of self-direct their kind of learning around that important subject. Then there's also project management as well. That is really, really important. It gives you that kind of bigger picture thinking and how everything fits together. And I kind of approach project management. There's lots of things to consider in that. So tools and templates. Excel training is one of the top areas that one of our trainees said yesterday around what they wish they had before joining their training contract, is around just that Excel, because pivot tables, believe me, make your life a lot easier. And also you're supported around the project fundamentals qualification as well. And there's also business development. That's a renowned and important key skill that our trainees have access to. Lots of tools to build personal profiles, networking, presenting, and engaging in kind of social media and things like that. With regards to applications, we open today actually for vacation schemes and our November Insight Days. We'll talk sort of more on the booth around our opportunities and what they look like, but obviously be aware of the deadline of the 3rd of January for vacation schemes. Training contracts will open on the 3rd of December and close the 30th of June next year. You have to complete an online application form. We obviously have minimum requirements of ABB on track to 2-1, and obviously consider contextualized recruitment. We have a contextualized recruitment system and consider that in our process, as well as mitigating examples to sort of make our decisions there. There's a critical thinking test, there's an assessment day, and obviously you run vacation schemes in spring and also in summer. So that's just a bit of an overview, whistle stop tour. I'm now going to pass over to our trainees to do a bit of an intro and talk around their highlights of their experiences on the training contract. So I don't know if it's worth starting with Ollie, if you wanted to give a little bit of an overview of what you've been doing and maybe why you chose Dentons.
Sure. Hi everyone. So for me, when I was looking, at the different firms out there on the market, of which, I appreciate there are so many, and it can be really difficult to, differentiate between the different firms. I think the thing that set Dentons apart to me was that it's obviously a huge international law firm, offices all over the world, enabling you to undertake work across countless jurisdictions. So I've worked across jurisdictions that, to be honest, I barely even heard about before I started as a trainee. But at the same time, the culture is lovely, and it's got the soft culture you may find at, you know, a smaller regional firm, but it offers you the high value work that you'd find at, you know, a large market leading firm such as us. So that's the main thing for me that just sets us apart. And, you know, every day at the firm that's been reinforced, and there's a true open door culture. It's a bit different now, you know, being a virtual trainee, so to speak, but everybody's always there for you. And those horror stories you might hear, you know, at different firms, especially in the city, I've seen none of that at Dentons, and everybody's lovely. And the work's great. And to me, as a trainee, one of the most important things is to, you know, find that culture that will allow you to go on and thrive. And, you know, having been at the firm for, you know, over a year now, it's just, I believe that Dentons has given me that platform that's, you know, supported me and allowed me to go on and thrive. So that's just the main reason for me personally as to why, you know, I chose Dentons and why I'm so happy at this firm. And turning to, you know, the type of work that I've been involved in over the past year. So it was quite a strange time to be in a real estate seat, because, you know, I was in real estate as Brexit happened, and there was a lot of pause on investment. But it was a great seat. Did lots of landlord and tenant work, and then moved over to our aviation finance seat, which once again was quite a strange time to be, you know, in the aviation industry because COVID hit. So I found myself doing more restructuring types aviation work, as opposed to, you know, delivery financings, which is what you tend to think of when you join an aviation finance team, which typically tends to be where you've got a lender who basically lends money to an airline or an operating lessor so that they can then go and buy an aircraft for $200 million. And we obviously that, you know, entails lots of contracts and contractual negotiations. And that's kind of what you do in an aviation finance seat. But I found myself, you know, advising lots of airlines who didn't want to pay rent for a while because, you know, as you'll see, airlines are strapped for cash and they're loss making at the best of times. So it's an extremely difficult time to be an airline. And just tying into Joe's Joe's innovation talk a little bit earlier on. So we were working on a huge aviation finance deal for a national flag carrier in the Middle East, who was refinancing 7 aircraft. And this was just as lockdown was about to hit. And, you know, for the last 15 years or plus, in which we've advised this client on countless refinancings, they've always signed by wet ink, which is basically where you send out PDF copies of the documents that you're going to complete with, and they get signed by the client. The client then scans them, normally in their office where they've got scanners, and then sends them back to you. And a typical trainee's job is to take all those, you know, tens of hundreds of signatures, plug them all together, and complete the document. Now, lockdown then hit in the midst of this deal, and I had to call up Joe and say, how are we going to sign this thing? How are we going to get this deal over the line? And Joe told us about DocuSign, of which we didn't know about in our team. And he talked us through it. It was lots of late nights testing out the platform, badgering Joe with probably quite stupid questions. And we actually ended up closing a £850 billion aircraft refinancing on the basis of DocuSign, having never used it before. And that just goes to show that, you know, we're at the cutting edge of the profession and we're embracing technology, which is great. And had we not had that DocuSign platform, I do not know how we would have completed that transaction. So, you know, Dentons is a law firm of the future. Lots of firms may say it, but I firmly believe that we're a law firm of the future. You know, and I hope that one day you can join us and we can meet in, albeit better circumstances. So that's probably enough of me rambling away. I'll move over to perhaps Sarah, who can discuss what it's like to be a new trainee in lockdown.
Yes, Sarah, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. I definitely agree with Ollie's points about why I chose Dentons. I spent some time before I joined the firm working in law firms abroad and really like the international scope of the firm. And I've only been here just over a month, but I also agree with the culture. Everyone's been really friendly and open to having conversations and phone calls and Zoom calls. So I do feel like I've been able to get to know people, even though it's not been face-to-face in all circumstances. In terms of the work that I've been able to get involved with so far, I've seen, so I'm also in the same department as Ollie at the moment in general banking, and I've seen a few amendments to facility agreements. So this is where the borrower and the lender negotiate some changes to the original loan. And I've been able to be involved with some of the drafting on these documents, so making the changes or including the execution blocks and sending out signing instructions to the parties, also using DocuSign, as Joe and Ollie mentioned. I've also got to grips with a few routine things that trainees get involved with in the banking department, such as preparing transaction bibles, which list all the key documents to the transaction, and CP checklists, which are things that need to be satisfied before the lender is willing to lend. In the pipeline, I've just started to work on a new deal, which involves a loan to a Turkish bank. And there was also something that came up recently about the refinancing of a loan to do with the development of some student accommodation. And I think I'd also highlight how good the training has been, both firm-wide and within the banking department. So in banking, there's a weekly trainee training session, and I think this is really informative. It really builds upon the fundamentals that you learn on the LPC and really adds to them. And firm-wide, the training contract, there's a lot of additional modules like the innovation module and the resilience training, that I'm really looking forward to getting involved with. And I think it's great that as trainees we have this opportunity with Dentons. So I'll hand over to Kyle for a few further points.
Thanks, Sarah. I think to begin with, first of all, everyone, I'm sorry for the background. I think I'm having a bit of trouble getting my camera to pick me up, and I look like something out of a Halloween horror film. So please accept my apologies for that, the dark background. So I would echo a lot of what Sarah has said. I think obviously we are both in the, and Oliver as well, in the in sort of the wider banking team, although I'm in a different subdivision to what Sarah is sitting in right now. So there has been a lot of crossover. For example, I've been doing a lot of post-completion work, compiling transaction bibles. That's basically when you have all of the documents from a transaction. That can sometimes be many, many thousands of pages, and you compile them together in a specific way. I've also been doing a lot of work, a lot of due diligence related work on a refinancing that's happening, and it's quite, it's working for a sort of household name, a big European bank, a household name, and it's quite exciting because I think in my first week or so, a lot of the deals a lot of the transactions I was involved in were in the closing stages. And I think the project that I'm working on mainly now, I'm working quite a few things, but the project I'm mainly working on, I'm sort of here right at the beginning of it, and I'm hoping to see it through all the way to the end. And I think that's quite a satisfying thing to do. Everyone's been very approachable and friendly in my department. Obviously, it's quite difficult circumstances, and hopefully when you're all joining or hoping to join the firm, things will have improved. One thing I'd like to say is the firm has been very good, at facilitating what individuals want in terms of how they want to arrange sort of their working environment. So I'm in the office today, and I think Sarah's in the office as well. It's very much my preference to be in the office. I don't like working from home, and the firm have been very good. Dentons have been very good at facilitating that. So I'm in the office pretty much every day. And I think going forward, I just look forward to being able to socialize a bit more freely and readily with my fellow trainees and other colleagues.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. So I think we can start the Q&A bang on time. So thank you very much for giving your insight there. There's probably a question for Joe, actually. Would you say that innovation is what sets Dentons apart, maybe from other firms? Do you think there's anything we do particularly different at Dentons that maybe you could share a bit around?
Yeah, so I think, look, a lot of law firms are experimenting with legal technology, there are a few things that set us apart. The first is the Next Law Investment Scheme. We were definitely the first law firm to recognise that investing in legal tech startups and helping them develop would be a sensible move. And so that's almost 5 years ago now. We set up Next Law Ventures and invested in some really top startups, one of which we've already had an acquisition of. So certainly proved that concept. The Innovation Training Scheme, I don't think any other law firms are doing anything like this in terms of the highly practical nature of it. We haven't really announced it publicly yet because we're sort of waiting for how the first cohort goes and some use cases and examples will come out of that. Certainly, I think that sets us apart. And then apart from that, we've got just the global nature of the firm, and the scale of our resources means that we have the global innovation team, which links together all of the regional activities. And so we regularly speak with our counterparts in Canada, US, Singapore, Europe, Africa, South America. There's innovation going on in different ways all across the globe, and so we're able to link together our efforts and use our economies of scale to be the most efficient we can in terms of finding the right technologies for us. And I think that many other law firms, would fail to replicate those sorts of mechanics that we can take advantage of.
Well, thank you for that. So we've now got a question actually for Sarah. So it's really interesting around obviously gender equality and then that sort of side, and obviously obviously all the legal profession needs to be more sort of focused on kind of leadership and making sure that it is representative across the board, not just from a gender point of view. But how do you feel that Dentons is with regards to from a gender point of view in meetings? Do you feel supported? Do you feel that you are kind of as a female in the profession? Do you feel kind of comfortable with regards to being in meetings and that sort of side? I mean, we are pretty diverse when it comes from a gender point of view, but I don't know if you've got any sort of thoughts or things to share on that sort of side, Sarah. Oh, sorry, Sarah. Did you maybe it's got a technical difficulty? I don't know if you can hear. Okay. Maybe the sound's not working. So maybe we go on to the next question, which is around what problems maybe do your team kind of with regards to Joe, if your team has encountered any problems with regards to, I assume legal check. I mean, there's always, challenges and always things I guess you've got to, overcome when it comes to implementing new systems and considerations. But I don't know if you've got any things to share.
Yeah, so there's always, law is one of the world's oldest professions, and law firms in their typical traditional delivery models have been successful for centuries, right? So trying to convince any lawyers to that is a delivery mechanism that needs changing, you're always on the back foot. It doesn't matter whether you're in innovation or any other change function in a law firm. That's reality. And I've previously worked for two of the Magic Circle in a similar capacity. And it's the same everywhere. So I think the really trying to get the lawyers using the technology. There's lots of different methods that we use to try and achieve that. Getting FaceTime with the partnership as well is very important. Crucial for any of the pilots that we do is making sure we've got sponsoring partners, allocated senior associates down to trainees or paralegals that will be using it on specific projects. Reminding people constantly what technology is available to them. Putting all this stuff in pitches so clients are demanding for it. There are, I'd say that it's an innovation journey. There's no sort of big bang with innovation. You'll get the earlier adopters first, the most enthusiastic evangelists. They'll be the first to use it, but you need to also target everyone else, because at the end of the day, legal technology should be impacting across different platforms on all matters, right? And so that doesn't matter whether the partner is a fan of this type of thing or they're not. The broad brush is that everybody should be getting involved, and that's, we're still on that journey.
Fantastic, thank you.
I've just seen Lisa's question about whether a female voice is equally heard and valued in meetings as male colleagues, and I would say completely yes. I haven't had any issue with it. I think everyone's very aware of the importance of diversity and inclusion, and there's regular webinars on this topic, and I've attended a few of them, and I think it's something that the firm is really keen to ensure that everyone is their authentic self and everyone has a voice at the table. And in the month or so that I've been here, I haven't had any issues with this.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that. That's great. So we've got a firing amount of questions around, and some quite broad topics here kind of coming through around the future of kind of AI and how that might be sort of changing in the next sort of 50 years. Joe, obviously that's quite a challenging thing to predict really overall, because obviously we're in a constant changing world. But do you have any sort of thoughts around how AI changing might look like in the legal profession?
Yeah, I mean, 50 years, that's a pretty long outlook. What I can say is that AI at the moment is, we look at it as like a 20 to 35% time saving platform. So the idea is the AI will scan your 1,000 commercial contracts or leases or employment contracts or whatever, looking for the clauses you're interested in, so termination clauses, liability clauses, and it lists them out for you, for you to read. So, what we're not saying here is the lawyer can, abdicate responsibility and not have to still read the information in the contracts. Rather that the AI has pulled it out for them and made it really easily accessible, and you can, filter on different documents depending on whether they do have this clause and the date of the document, and you can be a lot more smart about how quickly you get to the information you need. But at the moment, we're not comfortable enough that the tools can have the level of accuracy that we can rely on their outputs. So often they will miss things, they will miscategorize things. And so I suppose the question is, do I see AI advancing to a point where those time savings that we're currently saying that 20 to 35% will actually go beyond that into the 80 or 90% or even 100% of some tasks? I think the jury's still out on that one. There are some platforms that are better than others. I think I wouldn't want to commit one way or another.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a very broad topic that probably we'd need a whole session really to talk about. So there's a question. So I'm not sure. Maybe we direct this at Kyle around maybe. Have you used any legal tech products, or maybe even what have you selected, with regards to innovation projects and that sort of side? I don't know if there's anything, legal tech related there that you might have sort of had exposure to or kind of looking to have exposure to in the future.
Sure, Sarah. So I think, as Sarah and I both said, we've only sort of been working officially at Dentons for about a month, because before that we had our induction. So obviously I have only been here for a limited time, but in that time I have actually used DocuSign, which I think Ollie and Joe have referenced. I've used that on 2 occasions, and I've also actually been to an in-person signing, which I understand is quite rare now, but it was a great excuse to go and see another law firm's offices and compare them to ours. Yeah, I've used DocuSign. It's a really good bit of technology. I think the firm very clearly set out how to use it. I felt very supported by my colleagues and staff and other staff. And yeah, that would probably be my main experience with sort of cutting edge legal tech so far. I don't know if Sarah has anything to add on that point.
I've also used the DocuSign platform. We had a training session that Ollie helped to give, and there's also, we selected our choices for the innovation training, and we'll be doing one in each seat, and we'll be given a supervisor. So I'm really looking forward to getting involved in that.
Fantastic, thank you. Great. So we've had some questions around, I guess, diversity and inclusion, and obviously that, as mentioned, that's obviously a strategic goal of Dentons with regards to really trying to move the dial and make sure that we are having an inclusive culture and make sure that the firm is as represented as possible. It's asked around kind of how ethnically diverse we are kind of overall, and just to say that with regards to our trainee kind of recruitment, actually 47%, I think, of trainees hired this year from BAME backgrounds, and there's a real focus within the firm, particularly from a race commitment point of view. We've actually just signed up to something really encouraging and really I guess going to really sort of shape things to come with regards to what we can do. We've got clear actions and clear steps that we are working towards with regards to making sure that we are being as inclusive as possible. We were on a town hall in UK and Middle East last week, and that was obviously something that we were updated on how the firm's doing overall, but a really sort of front and center piece around that was obviously around race diversity and what we're doing. We've also had a series of training and talks which obviously have been mandatory and led by our CEO as well. So it is of great importance to the firm for us to be as inclusive as possible, and really sort of there is a lot of drive for us to make a change, a real change within this regard. So yes. I mean, there's a question around, I guess, how kind of different international backgrounds are, and I don't know, Ollie, if you've got anything to say around maybe your international kind of connections with people. How international does Dentons feel with regards to teams and the work that you have done as a trainee? Have you had sort of much in the way of sort of cross jurisdictional deals?
I think, so obviously, as I said, my first seat was in real estate, which by its very nature is quite domestic, because obviously the real estate assets are governed by, the jurisdiction in which they're in. But then moving over to banking, it's been the complete opposite of that. So I think almost every deal in which I've been involved in, there's been opposing counsel. So yeah, I'd very much, echo that it's an extremely diverse firm. And my printer's about to go, so I'm going to hand back over to Sarah.
Sure. Great. So there's also a question around first year. There's a student who's basically a first year and wondering around the November Insight events. Just to say that those are mainly for penultimate year law, non-law onwards. We actually run spring open days, which are obviously live today as well. So do go and have check that out. But that's obviously specifically geared for first year students. You get to gain, exposure to the firm, but also at the same time, it helps you with regards to future vacation scheme applications. And there's obviously lots of networking and kind of commercial insight that's obviously shared there as well. So hopefully that answers that question. But obviously more questions around the application processes and that sort of side, we'd be happy to have further chats on our booth from 2 o'clock. Okay. Let's have a look. There's a question around what we look for in applications overall. So I don't know if any of our trainees have got any sort of hints and tips around best applications and what to do really there. I don't know, Sarah, if you've got anything to casting your mind back to applying and what you needed to do to make sure you sort of stood out in that regard. Is there anything that you would advise, your sort of top tip maybe? No worries. I think we might have lost sound. I'm
happy to jump in there, Sarah.
Okay, thanks, Ollie.
The biggest thing I would say is just to be yourself. I think if you go into an interview, or even when filling out an application form, people interviewing you and reading your application forms can kind of tell when you're trying to be somebody that you're not. So the flip side of that is that partners and associates and graduate recruitment that are interviewing you, when you are yourself, they can tell, and that's what they want to see. Because they know that when you come to work at the firm for 2 years plus, you're going to be yourself. So just to go in, and I keep saying it, but just be yourself and then let your personality shine through. And also, you need to always remember that a firm's interviewing you, but at the same time you are interviewing the firm, and you're trying to find if you and the firm are a match for each other. So just to always be yourself. And my view that I've always had in life is that everything happens for a reason. And if you're meant to be at a specific firm, I'm a believer in you're always going to end up at the right firm. And I think that's certainly true in respect of myself.
Great advice. What I would say is we've now actually run out of time, so we'll be opening our booth in 4 minutes. So do come on over and continue asking these questions. I'd like to thank Oliver, Sarah, and Kyle, and also Joe for sharing their insight today and answering some of those questions. Really appreciated. Thank you so much. Come over to our booth in a bit. Thank you. Bye all.